Next is, how did the Theo influence you personally? So, being a theocentric person, we become so God concerning relation related to our world. We become so uh, ethical. We think that there is always a consequence in our actions. There is always a result to every action. And every action is either reward or a punishment. This is all about our own view towards God. God for us is the supreme being. God for us is the one who controls everything. He is the most powerful being. And this somewhat we become so binded with these rules and regulations. And God creates nature with order. God creates nature with somewhat a relationship towards rules. And according to Immanuel Kant, that in every order there is always the source of every order, and there must be God who creates this order. And in that way, as a being theocentric person, we must do according to what God is bounded us or commanded us. This is all about God's center, being God-centered. So, buhaton nato unsay giingon sa Ginoo. Buhaton nato unsay rules, Ten Commandments sa Ginoo. So, amoy ang gihita nato being theocentric. Theocentric. So, we must not do something in our environment that would get angry. God would get angry for us. Ang bitaw na panahon na, aduy, linog na, aduy, ang ginoo na gid paga, pusla na gid kita. So this is somewhat a certain way of philosophizing the theocentric concept or approach. The second is, and the third one is the last, as the anto. How did we become influential towards anthropocentrism? Well, anthropocentrism is not really somewhat bad. What is anthropocentrism? In anthropocentrism, man or human beings become centered of all. So if you become centered, if you are self-centered, we had the capacity to do something because we are human. And for us, we are dominant species of all. In this way, we become unique to any kind of species or animal. According to Aristotle, I would say human beings is a rational animal. Animal because he's part of the creation. But he is rational since he has the capacity to be unique, to be reason, to conceptualize, to reason out. Right? Meaning he had the way of his mind or thinking. And this thinking or self-thinking, we become we become so self-centered. We know that we are the dominant beings. But somehow, in that influencing of anthropocentric, it becomes so clear for us that sometimes we do things for our own interest. And this results in somewhat so-called human destruction of the environment. So it influences us in a way that becomes self-centered, and we become insensitive to our environment because of our own self-interest or self-centeredness. So what do you think is the most influential among them? I guess all of them are influentials, but that way, in your own self, what influences you? If we become too much about cosmological wave, we become also somewhat insensitive to being human, being becoming human. We forget of becoming somewhat understanding towards our own self, human being. But if we also become self-centered or anthropocentric, if we are too much this anthropocentric, we become insensitive to the world. We become insensitive to the human values. We become insensitive to things that the world surrounds needs us. Okay? If we become also too much to theocentric, we are bonded with rules and objectivism. And in this way, we, we will be somewhat so-called centered to God and become so centered to God that sometimes we are only created with fear na paano ko to kay na Ginoo kilatan kita o gabaan kita. The concept of God become so malahi ang atong understanding or we misunderstood the value of God as a good and true being. Good being. Kaya mabasahin, mag-inom kita. Naiginoo kay itong mahadlok lang ka kay naiginoo magabaan ka. You are bounded only by command. You are only bounded by somewhat rules. But if God lets us, sometimes we become so only, we follow only because we are afraid. We follow things because we are afraid. So, what influences us among these three? So, in that way, we are called for the three approaches. We are called for the world to share something about us. What kind of relationship do we have in this world? What kind of help that we can create for environment? Okay, so we're going to answer the following tasks or questions in the modules. So whatever questions that you have, we will classify things in the certain group chat or personal chats or DM. Thank you.